think I've got my presentation being displayed at the moment. Won't have time for that. Won't have time for that. So, shall I just start? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. People are back, I think, so let's go for it.
Okay. So we won't have time for the other demos, but just to give you an idea, some of the other items that we had that might have been of interest was there's obviously an optom referral system for the referrals coming in for an optom. I won't have time to show you. And there's also the imaging PACS solution that we have. We have various bits of information. Just to give you an example, here's a description of a PACS system here, and it allows you to bring up images, including more cubes. It's just a very, very simple viewer. Allows you to store all your imagery, your diagnostic in one place. So we can demonstrate that sort of information later because it will take more than the time available. But what I will do is have a quick overview of the technical side of things. I've got quite a few slides here, but in 10 minutes, I'll skip through the company because I can always talk about that later. Just to let you know, we're an international company, obviously, as you can hear from the aspect, based in Australia and UK, but also offices in France. And our main mission is to just deploy OpenEyes in as many areas as the world as possible. We've spent the last 2 years in making it industrial strength. You may have seen the old Moorfields version, which is version 1. We're now on version 6, so the product has grown exponentially. So there's a few things I can talk about. There's the technical setup, and then there's the ways of working, support, how it works, how we do an agile method to work with yourselves to implement. And then there's a little bit more on the roadmap and the futures of OpenEyes. With 10 minutes, I can go into a little bit of the technical architecture, the overview, the different environments, how you connect up devices, that sort of thing. But I can focus more on support or anything if anyone speaks up. So I won't be looking at the chat window as we go through. So please, if you just ask the moderator and they can just jump in and ask a question at any time, it's no problem. So as I say, I'm going to skip through with 10 minutes, all about us, information that you've already been shown. So I'm just going to go through the technical information and the overview of the architecture. Hopefully this makes sense to the technical people here. I can't see any objections at the moment, so we'll just go through. Just to give you an idea with the way these environments set up, we usually have a few different environments that we set up for you, and it depends upon the trust and how they want to do things. But we normally have a sort of demonstration environment or an explore environment. Then you've of course got your user acceptance test environment. Then you'll have something which we call near live, and that's like a recent copy of live, where you copy the data across. It allows us to do test out integrations, new versions, that sort of thing, without impacting live. And then you've got your live environment. Just from a technical point of view, we've done a lot of enhancements to the product recently, so everything's virtualized, and we tend to use Docker images to do it. We have deployed on various different deployments, including Amazon, Google Cloud, and the more traditional VMware style, and Azure. So that's the example sort of systems we have. Now, in addition to the base environment that you have, if we look at production here, so if we look at the production system, you'll have your application server and your database server, and that's using for the technical people, that's using a LAMP stack. And you'll have occasionally you might have a reporting server, which you can use to offload reporting, or you can access it directly from your data warehouse. So it's a SQL database, so it's quite easy to pull all the reports and everything off. We also have an interface layer called Mirth, and that's like a connectivity engine that makes it easy for us to do the HL7 messages, the FHIR messages, or API information backwards and forwards. So that handles the entire connection layer that we've got in the system. So all this sits behind the HSCN network, and when we do cloud-based implementations, we tend to use UK cloud based upon the they meet all the security requirements and UK sovereignty and all that sort of stuff. We could equally put it on other systems, but UK cloud have been very good setting up everything, also with the network into your systems, your PAS and your devices. Again, I think we've got 9 minutes. This is just a little bit more of the topology. I'll make these slides available for the technical people so you can look at these in detail, but it just shows a little bit of how everything's connected into the system. So in terms of the software stack that we're talking about, it's a LAMP stack. So Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. And these are the versions of the software that we've got. As I say, this is all Dockerized, so this is all contained within Docker, and that's what we deploy to the systems. But it's sometimes for the technical people to know exactly what the software stack is. Now, one of the things we do obviously is connected device integrations. You saw the IOL master, I think 500 connectivity from that Ian mentioned before. So obviously we also connect with Forum and several other devices. The main requirement for the devices are that they're a DICOM compliant device, so they need to be able to export in a DICOM format, and then we can connect to the devices as long as you've got the connectivity, and we can import that data into OpenEyes. Just to clarify on that, we've got an interoperability guide that gives you the detail, but at a high level, we import the imagery, the PDF, and we don't do the actual cube. So the full cube video is not put in. However, we do import the slices. So if you remember that visual acuity stuff that you saw from the demo before, you can actually link that to all the slices, and as you scroll backwards and forwards across the graph, you'll see the imagery change on the right hand side. So it looks very much like a cube, but it's actually the transition of the eye over time. So as I say, we use Mirth as the central system to do all the connectivity, and we have a payload processor that moves the data between the system and OpenEyes. So that's in an overview, and with as you can see, the forum will come in, and you can either integrate directly from the devices into OpenEyes, or some people like to put their device systems into forum. We need to be clear, for every device that you connect to forum, we still need to put an appropriate adapter in Mirth. So it's not like you connect 20 or 30 devices to forum and say there's just one interface. It's for each device, we need to know exactly what it is, because we're reading that data into OpenEyes and we need to know the exact format. So we need to make sure if you add a new device to forum, it won't automatically appear in OpenEyes. It needs to be configured. So again, to give you an example of the devices that you can connect, obviously there's the visual fields, the biometry, the OCT, then you've got your fundus cameras and your slit lamps, which are pretty straightforward. This again, the main thing that you want to know with this one obviously is that DICOM file. Now that's quite important, because a lot of devices, although they can export DICOM, you need to check with your device manufacturer to make sure that there's no additional licenses or anything like that you need to actually export. I know Forum does it as well. Some have limits on the number of users that can use the system and that sort of thing. So it's it's often good to double check before you use the system on that. So that in an overview, and I've got 5 minutes left. Just I think Ian probably showed you this as well, but this is reading in the information from one of the Zeiss machines, just to show you what it looks like in OpenEyes. But as Ian says, what people typically do is they have either two screens, or they have a large screen. They split the windows side by side, so you'll have your Zeiss Forum up on the right-hand side, and you'll have OpenEyes up on the left-hand side. So it just makes it a lot easier to run through. This is probably more technical, actually, but just there is a product roadmap for OpenEyes, and it's extremely active in terms of the features that are coming out. This does change; it's very fluid, but typically every quarter we'll do a release, and that release is made available, and that's included with the price. What we don't do is, obviously you'll need to test it and verify it yourself for your environment. However, we provide all those releases and updates, and we can update the system as part of the support. So that's what we offer. Now that is, I've actually got 4 minutes to go. I could talk more, or should I do questions?
I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
Des, do you want to start off? Because you had one, didn't you?
Yeah, I guess it's well, I've got a couple actually. I've sort of been told this is going to be a cloud-hosted solution for us. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes. So, yep.
Yeah. So in terms of that, obviously all of this stuff on your Earth servers will be up in the cloud somewhere.
Yep.
But they will need to do local connections. So how are those local connections, even though they're over HSCN, they still need to be encrypted or protected in some fashion? So
Absolutely.
is there all native encryption on all the streams, or do we need to do something fancy like a VPN?
So we've got a couple, but yeah, usually they do a encrypted VPN connection. UK Cloud, our service provider for the hosting, do that with yourselves, and you do an encrypted VPN tunnel between them and you, so you can connect to the PACS and the devices.
Right. Okay. And that's so the service will be on HSCN, so it's not like we're connected to something on the internet.
No, it's not on the internet. There are internet versions of OpenEyes that are being used. For instance, Scotland, they release all theirs on the internet because they want all the optons to connect to it as well as the things. So those optons aren't behind their secure firewall. So, but yeah, the version that we're proposing for yourself is behind the HSCN. So there's no direct access to the internet unless you create a HSCN gateway, which is something which is at scope for this. Yeah,
no, that's fine. It does make it slightly easier. There's more stuff we need to do if it's an internet hosted service.
Yeah.
I can only think of one other question at the moment. You had the slide up that said all the versions of Linux and etc. that were there. We're obviously very keen on making sure everything's patches are applied in good time to protect the data, and there's no obsolete versions or anything in there. So how would that be maintained? Presumably you're doing all the maintenance on that, but how does that feed back to us to say that for assurance that we've got all the patches, etc. And our data is protected?
That gets in a little bit of ways of working as part of the support release and everything. There's security patches which are applied as mandated, so they come in. However, if there's other patches or versions, you're notified about the patch or version before it comes out, so that you've got time to decide whether you want to do that. So you have a say in that, and there's a default set of patches which will always be applied, security patches, but the other ones, especially if they're optional, we usually, as part of the monthly report, we say these ones are coming out, they're optional. We'll give you our recommendation, but it's up to yourselves whether you want to apply those. Whether you want us to apply those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm probably stepping on other people's toes here, but I couldn't actually tell whether that was a web-based client or if it's an actual fat client that needs to be deployed out to
No, OpenEyes has been designed for the web. It's pure web.
Yeah.
There's no, and it's not like an artificial one. You'll see with other ones where they say it's web-based, but there's like a Citrix system running over the top of it, as saying this is just pure web browser, no plugins, no requirements for any extra software, just web browser. So our requirements are either Chrome or Chromium web browser. Those are the ones we recommend with it. And it's HTML5 compliant. So you need something that's like within the last 2 years. If you try and use a 10-year-old browser, we can't guarantee results on that one.
We're desperately trying to get off Internet Explorer 11. Most of our machines, in fact, I think all of our machines have Chrome on at the moment, but we're going to shift to Edge. So the new version of Edge, is that acceptable?
We haven't done extensive testing with a version of Edge. A lot of people use it. So, I mean, it's HTML5 compliant, so it works with any HTML5 compliant browser. The only thing as I said, the only thing that we have certified it with at the moment is that the official one is Chromium and Chrome. However, it's something that can be tested as part of your UAT. We haven't heard of any issues with the other browsers. It's just, as you can imagine, there's quite a few with Opera and all the other ones. So yeah.
Okay, I think I've run out of the questions, so somebody have to go.
Thanks, Des. Steve Dobie, I know you've got a question.
I think it's all about slide. So you're using Mirth with the MariaDB.
Yes.
Is that what
actually, we've got two implementations. One's Mirth and MariaDB, and we've just implemented GCP stuff. So we also use Cloud SQL. But yes, it's Mirth, MariaDB, Apache.
Okay, that's good. I say no. Just we run Mirth on the hospital, and we're looking to move to Postgres off of SQL, I think, or MySQL actually to Postgres. Right. And say just curiosity, but no, good.
Yeah, no. So MySQL database, MariaDB variant. So yeah, absolutely. So it's very similar in ways to Postgres, because Postgres is also open source, which is what we are. So
right, good.
Right. Anybody else got any questions? That's all the ones I know about at this stage. Jenny.
Hello. Yes. I'm just wondering if the patient's record is easily extractable if we've received a subject access request.
Or an FOI request. It's certainly possible to do that, and we also obviously have the NOD audits that we comply to. It's those screens and those searches that you saw from that Ian did. You've got an option to save some of those as a file. So the exact format I don't have, but yeah, a lot of people do extract that information out as a flat file or an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF document.
I think Ian's going to jump in. Are you in?
So what we do, so we often have to, because we're sort of a tertiary centre, we often send patients back to their local units. And when you create a letter, you can attach any of those other events as additional pages, like enclosures to your letter. So you could add op notes or copies of visual fields, and they will just add to the printout or PDF of that patient. So you can basically, you could export every single bit of data from that patient in a print format that is nice and easy to read, or you can extract it in a more data format. But I assume what you're after is actually a print format, for medical legal purposes or for patients and records. And you can do that fairly easily. And we are actually trying to develop an even easier way of doing that, because we recognise that is something that's going to be increasingly more useful.
Thank you.
Des has thought of another one.
Yeah, sorry. What kind of user login is required? Does the system maintain its own database of users and permissions? Can it be linked to our local AD or something else for authentication?
So we always tend to link with the Trust's preferred authentication service. So in your case, you've got Microsoft ADM, so we link directly into that. So you've got single login for your PAS and OpenEyes. And so yeah, that is controlled via there. You've obviously got roles and privileges inside OpenEyes, but yeah, everything would be controlled by that. So single sign-on.
So is that essentially just using an LDAP lookup? So the system will link to our domain controllers, right? Are you aware that we've actually got 2 Active Directory domains at the moment with users migrating between the 2? So we've got the same user on both domains. Can it cope with that? Some systems can, some systems can't.
Yeah, well, actually, you saw Ian talk about Wales rollout. We actually have about 50 different LDAP directories that we're connecting to, and some are LDAP, some are other formats. So yeah, that's possible. There is a multi-tenanted version. However, there's also a multi-tenant light, which I think for your purposes should be okay. So you have a picking list of different LDAP directory servers that you can connect to.
Mm-hmm. Right, I'm more interested about you could go to one of our domains, there'd be a user there with the correct username but the incorrect password because they're not using that account anymore, and it would then need to check the other domain and it would find a matching password and then let them on. Is that feasible?
Now, I don't know about the logic in that. We'd have to check with the dev team as to what the default thing is. But there's certainly the catering for a user being in multiple areas. However, the logic, you know, if it goes to one and they can't log in, if it goes to the other, I couldn't comment on that. But I'll find out and get the information back to you.
It's worth checking straight up on. I mean, there's probably ways we can get around it with the. But they're manually intensive from our point of view. We have limited groups within each Active Directory and only live users are put into those groups. But because we're in the process of migrating, that's a very general field there. So it can be quite interesting keeping that up to date. And we want people ringing up saying, oh, I used to be able to get access yesterday, but I can't today. So yeah, it's a bit of a problem. It's a challenge, shall we say?
Yeah, and you know, occasionally, you know, the system we have had issues in the past where all of a sudden MSADN's been updated all of a sudden and people can't log in. But we're on the phone to your support line pretty quick if something like that happens. But that's so as long as it's critical that you synchronize your maintenance windows, obviously, with our support team, so that just things like that don't prevent people from logging into OpenEyes. But yeah, certainly the LDAP directory authentication is fine.
Nice.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Cara. Question about the interfacing, specifically the HL7 PAS interface.
Yep.
Can that be can that be bidirectional? So could you send messages so that we could send it back to our PAS system?
At the moment, we've only given unidirectional interfaces, and so if you modify anything in your PAS, oh, have I got that? Where is it? I don't know where the PAS. I've got one somewhere that talks about. But at the moment, we've only implemented unidirectional. Saying that, for more fields, we have done another release where we're doing bidirectional, and we have done a lot of prototypes on bidirectional. But at the moment, if you update demographics, work list, bookings in your PAS, those get reflected in OpenEyes.
Right.
So it's that one-way transfer, if you like.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, there's when you send out forms and letters and information, obviously there's data that's sent via those sorts of systems. And so we've done some similar interfaces where they interface into those. But yeah, there's not that tight bidirectional coupling, if you like, because there are although technically it's simple, there are a few logistical issues with it. So but sure. It's certainly on the roadmap.
Right. Yep.
Thanks, Maz. Anybody else got anything? Because I'm conscious it's time's moving on.
I mean, from my point of view, I'm fine to stay on for 20 minutes if people have questions, but yeah, I obviously understand people's time is precious as well. So
well, what I was going to suggest was if people have got questions after this, if you email them to either me or Nia, then we can forward them on to you, Clayton.
Sure. Yep.
Is that all right?
Yeah, no problem. And I think I saw you've already forwarded on some of the clinical questions that you're refining as well. So I was thinking of I'll get that information back to you as well. That might answer a lot of the questions.
Thanks, that'd be great.
A big thank you from me to everybody. Well,
No, it's been a fantastic session. Really appreciate you.
Yeah,
all the demo.
Hopefully it was useful. I can't believe Ian got through so much in such a short time. That's you know, that's
actually I realised I never covered like the drawing tools and annotations of that. But there was a question that popped up about SNOMED. Yes, all diagnoses and procedures and medicines have got SNOMED codes where they are available. And actually, I'm doing some separate work as part of the college in SNOMED, and there's a ton of stuff that hasn't got SNOMED codes, but OpenEyes is one of the few systems that does definitely use SNOMED.
Well, thanks very much, Clayton, because I can see it's about 2:42 a.m. on your screen.
Tomorrow.
I'm actually in London, but because I deal with the Australian team, it's always good to know when I call them what time it is. So yeah, we've got a UK-based team and an Australian-based team. So we tend to work around the clock sometimes. So, yeah.
Just to say, I have recorded both the Q&A and the demo, and I'll be making them available on the intranet either later this evening or it could be tomorrow morning. So I'll send an email around to everybody so that anybody that didn't get a chance to come can catch up, or if anyone wants to review what we've seen, it'll be available for them. But other than that, I think we might have finished.
Thanks very much.
No, thank you ever so much. Really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for your time this afternoon.
Cheers.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.